All right, let's jump right in. Over the last 50 years or so, something really strange happened to the way Americans connect with each other. You know, that sense of community, the glue that holds neighborhoods and towns together? It feels like it's been fraying. It's a genuine mystery, and one that sociologist Robert Putnam decided to crack in his famous book, Bowling Alone. So today, we're going to play detective and follow the clues he laid out. And this quote? This is the central clue, the heart of the whole mystery. The book kicks off with this brilliant metaphor. It's not that people just stopped bowling. Actually, more people were hitting the lanes than ever before. The big difference, the real story, is that they stopped doing it together, in leagues. So individual activity was up, but that collective group activity, it was way, way down. And this was never really about bowling, of course. It's about a huge shift in how we live our lives. Now, to really understand this mystery, we need to get our heads around this key concept, social capital. It might sound a little academic, but it's simple. Think of it just like financial capital, like money in the bank. But instead of cash, the currency here is trust, connection, and knowing your neighbors have your back. It's the value of your social networks. It's what turns a collection of individuals into a real community. And what keeps that bank of social capital full? It's this idea of generalized reciprocity. This isn't just a simple, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's much deeper. It's the feeling that, hey, I'll help you out now because I trust that down the road, someone, maybe not even you, but someone will be there to help me. It's the invisible lubricant of a healthy community, and it's one of the first things that started to vanish. So what does this disappearing act actually look like? If social capital really is eroding, there must be some evidence left behind, right? Let's take a look at the data and see what it tells us. The speed of this collapse is just wild. Take something like the PTA. For generations, it was a cornerstone of American life. But after it peaked in the early 1960s, membership just fell off a cliff. In just 20 years, it completely erased all the growth it had made since World War II. And this wasn't just the PTA. The exact same pattern showed up in dozens of other groups, from the Red Cross to the Elks Club. But look, this isn't just a story about boring formal meetings. It hit our personal lives too. What Putnam calls schmoozing, just casually hanging out, took a massive nosedive. In just a couple of decades, the number of times people had friends over for dinner dropped by more than a third. We weren't just joining less, we were hanging out less too. And when we stop interacting with each other, something really essential starts to decay: trust. This might be the most disturbing piece of evidence. Back in the 1960s, most Americans agreed with the statement, most people can be trusted. Fast forward to the late 90s, and that had totally flipped. The default attitude became, you can't be too careful. When we disconnect, we start to suspect one another. Okay, the evidence is pretty overwhelming. A crime has been committed against American community life. So the next logical step in any investigation is to line up the usual suspects. Who or what is really responsible for all this? So here's our lineup. And these should all sound pretty familiar, right? We're all just too busy. Or maybe it's because more women enter the workforce. Or it's all that time we spend in our cars, stuck in traffic. And then there's the big one, television and technology. Putnam went through the evidence for every single one of these, piece by piece. All right, after sifting through mountains of data, Putnam was finally ready to point the finger. And it turns out, some of the most popular suspects, they had some pretty solid alibis. The real story is a bit more complicated and, frankly, more surprising. So let's start with who didn't do it, or at least who wasn't the main culprit. Things like being busy and the rise of two-income families, yeah, they had an effect. But they weren't the masterminds behind this whole thing. They were more like accomplices. The real perps were hiding in plain sight. Okay, here it is. The breakdown of the blame. The single biggest cause responsible for nearly half of the entire decline, generational change. The next biggest culprit, television, which gets the blame for about a quarter of it. After that comes suburban sprawl, and then a mix of other smaller factors. But let's really focus on those top two. So what on earth does generational change mean? It's not that people like you and me got less involved as we got older. No, it's that an entire generation, what Putnam calls the long civic generation, people born between about 1925 and 1940, was just exceptionally engaged. They were forged by the Great Depression and World War II, and they were the ones who built post-war America's community life. As they've slowly left the scene, they've been replaced by newer generations, like boomers and Gen X, who are, from the start, simply less connected and less trusting. And what was it that shaped these new, less connected generations? More than anything else, it was television. Think about it. TV fundamentally changed how we spend our free time. Before TV, if you wanted entertainment, you often had to leave the house. You'd go to a club, a movie, a bowling league. Television brought entertainment right into our living rooms, and it atomized us. It kept us on our couches, alone or with our immediate family, instead of out in the community. So we've kind of solved the mystery. We know who the main culprits are. But this all leads to the biggest question of all. So what? Why should we even care? What's the big deal if we have a little less social capital? Well, the stakes could not be higher. Social capital isn't some fuzzy feel-good concept. It has huge tangible benefits. People with strong social connections are literally healthier and they live longer. Neighborhoods with more social capital have less crime, economies work better when people have networks to help them find jobs, schools perform better, and maybe most importantly, democracy itself just doesn't work without active, engaged citizens who trust each other. Losing social capital isn't trivial. It touches everything. Now, it would be really easy to end this whole story on a pretty depressing note, but there's one final, really important chapter, a lesson from America's own past that actually gives us a reason to be hopeful. And the key insight is this. We have been here before. The late 1800s, the Gilded Age, was also a time of huge disruption. Urbanization, new technologies, immigration. Social connections were fraying badly then too. It was America's first bowling alone crisis. But people didn't just throw up their hands. In what became the Progressive Era, they responded with an incredible burst of social creativity. They invented a whole new toolkit of civic organizations for a new century. Things like the Boy Scouts, the NAACP, the Rotary Club. Knowing this history changes everything. It reframes our current situation not as some terminal decline, but as a challenge. That last great wave of community building wasn't an accident. It was a choice people made. So the question Putnam leaves us with is a really powerful one. They did it once in the face of incredible change. Can we do it again? Can we invent the new ways of connecting that we need for the 21st century?